Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 23 of The Captain's Heart. Well, William exclaimed as Jeremy headed for the table where his friends were. Look who's here! And for lunch, of all things. And I've been here for breakfast, Jeremy replied, sitting next to Marcel. But we never eat as a group then. Won't the cats bitch about you not working on their ship? Omar asked as they all stared at him due to the sarcastic tone. Someone needs to have a talk with a doctor about his mood, Jenny said. I needed a day off, Jeremy answered, choosing not to address his friend's bad mood with the others there. And believe it or not, they also have regular time off, although they're on a different schedule of 4 days and 1 day off. Turok's been following my lead, thinking it was just how we humans worked, instead of realizing it was just you being a workaholic? Alice asked. Come on, I'm not that bad. I've been pushing because the commander wants them gone as fast as possible. But even I realize I'm not going to make that happen by burning out, so here I am. What are we doing today? They looked at each other. We hadn't planned on a group thing for today, Jenny said. But I'm sure we can come up with something, Lucy added. There's always a movie there if we can't come up with anything else. Yeah, Omar said, stretching the word in a way Jeremy didn't like. There's that cat movie Jeremy hasn't seen. Can we see something other than that? He asked, trying not to glare at the man. It was feeling like his bad mood was directed at Jeremy for some reason. You're saying no to a comedy? Marcel said, clearly surprised. I am saying no to a movie where Kelsirians are depicted as incompetent clowns and nothing more. I work with some of them, and it's made me realize how unkind our movies are to them. In fact, can we pick a comedy with only humans? With only a human cast this time? He wondered if he'd pushed too far, so the box, opened it, and placed his worm-looking anxiety in it. It did make his worry vanish once he closed it, but he no longer felt like he'd spiral into panic, especially because the smile Omar was giving him seemed to indicate his question had been too much. I don't see why not, Alice said. The cracking shipper's good, according to the reviews. I hadn't brought it up because, our thing seems to be alien comedies, but I was planning on catching it at some point. How funny is it? William asked. I'm more of a slapstick guy. I don't know what kind of comedy it is, she replied, but you could stretch your horizons a little. You might not have noticed that about me, he said, but I like space because there are no horizon out here. But I'm in, he added, before the groans fully formed. One by one, all his friends agreed, even Omar, although he didn't look happy about it. Okay, what's your problem? Jeremy asked once he caught up to his friend. Omar had left as soon as they exited the theater, and Jeremy had to run after him by the time he'd excused himself and tried to excuse Omar's rudeness. I don't have a problem. Come on. You've been sour from the dining hall. At this point, it's feeling personal, so come on. I'm always unloading on you. I think it's just fair you do it with me for once. Fine. Omar rounded on him so fast, Jeremy took a step back, already envisioning the box at the fear the way his friend was looking at him triggered. Omar seemed to realize that and raised his hands, closing his eyes and breathing. I'm sorry, he said. He finally said. That wasn't fair. Jeremy kept his opinion to himself. That had been a rather extreme reaction. So? Work's not going like as I'd like. Omar dismissed the question before Jeremy had voiced it. Nothing you can help with. It's a project I've been trying to convince the higher ups to approve, but they're being stubborn and there's no need for something like that. Jeremy didn't know if it had been intentional, but Omar had done a rather good impersonation of the commander. And the amount of time you're spending with them is making me uncomfortable. That's out of my control. But adapting their way of doing things isn't. Is that what you're pissed about? That I'm using a method you didn't give me? No, Omar said pointedly. That you're using one of their untested process that plays with your mind. One. All I'm doing is thinking. The ambassador didn't plug me into anything or force thought into my head. Two, it's not a Kelsirian technique. It's federalized. I told you that already. Or so he told you. Couldn't find anything about it on file. That's kind of odd, don't you think? Yeah, it is. According to the database, there's hardly anything about the Federation on file, which is odd considering we're in the process of joining them. But the ambassador forwarded me the documentation. Jeremy, you can't just you can't just trust what it's the official federalized document. Jeremy cut him off. In all Federation language, which, as of 15 years ago, includes English as Earth's official language. I'll send you a copy if you want to look it over. I ran random phrases through a translator and the results are a match within 95%. He waited for the protest before explaining that it was well within the margin of error for translation, but Omar seemed modified. I'm sorry, he finally said, and finally seemed to mean it. I just worry, you know. Your stress has been an issue for as long as I've known you, and you seem to have it under control. Then this happened, and he just offers an easy solution? It isn't. It's anything but easy. I always have to be on alert for how I feel, and if I don't start working on it as it's, yeah. And if I'm not working on it as it starts, it's not helping. And if the attacks are too strong, it doesn't matter what I do. He left it at that, since knowing it wasn't a cure-all seemed to make Omar feel better. I'm not dropping you as my doctor just because I have another way to deal with my stress, you know, he chuckled. If that's your fear, you really need to talk to someone about it. I guess it sounds like that from your side. Omar admitted, chuckling too. Look, I'm sorry you've been on the receiving end of this. I'll be better about leaving my troubles outside when we hang out. Cool. Now that's resolved, do you want to grab a drink? Hang out, just the two of us? Omar looked about to agree, then shook his head. I need to go deal with stuff. It's why I rushed off like that. Oh, okay. Then I'm sorry I kept you. No, I'm glad we did. I'm glad you did. We needed to have this talk. I'll see you later. Jeremy watched his friend walk away. He couldn't shake the feeling there was more he hadn't said, but at least they cleared out this misunderstanding. Jeremy was putting the bowl away when the door buzzed. It took his still sleep-addled brain a few seconds to realize what it meant. The coffee hadn't kicked in yet, and his sleep had been particularly restless. He opened it. Ambassador? When the Kelsirian looked him up and down, Jeremy checked what might be wrong, and he was eternally grateful he slept in his boxers. Have I woken you? Jeremy motioned the Kelsirian inside. No, but it feels like it. I didn't sleep well. The ambassador looked over the room. Is it something I can help with? Jeremy chuckled, grabbing the exercise pants and putting them on. You already did. I used the method you taught me each time I woke up to help me settle back down. I am glad. What can I help you with? I'm guessing you didn't show up at 7 in the morning just to be social. I, in fact, did just that. Jeremy stared at him. There's a ship filled with Kelsirian and you chose to spend time with me? I'm torn between feeling oddly proud and asking if there's something wrong you need to tell me about. The chuckle was light. You might very well. You might be right about both, but neither is why I'm here. It may seem odd to you, but I have little chance to get to know people on this station. I am not only the sole ambassador on the station, I am the sole ambassador within Earther space. There are always things to be dealt with. But I have decided to take a few hours for myself and to use them to get to know one of you better. And you chose me. That decision puzzles you? I'm just an engineer. There has to be better people for you to get to know. But I do not wish to get to know someone better. I wish to know someone ordinary. And by your own admission, you are just that. Jeremy chuckled. Okay, ask away. Actually, I would like to get to know you through the places you enjoy. I would like for you to take me to your favorite place on the station. Jeremy laughed. It's going to be a short trip. He thumbed his drafting station. Working there is just about the most fun I can have. What is it? The Kelsirian asked, sounding surprised. My drafting station. It's where I design anything and everything I think of. Unlike when I'm in the lab, here it doesn't matter how impossible what I'm thinking of is. No one is going to question the time I spend on them. And then you take that to your lab. Some things end up having applications with the research we do. Most of the time it doesn't, and I just file them away as flight of fancies. It seems that is a difference between our species. We spend little time on thoughts that don't have direct application to what we do. Oh, they have applications. Jeremy turned the station on and brought up an incomplete design. Like this. See, the point of this is to take advantage of the oscillation that happens during a matter-antimatter reaction on the quantum level that... He looked over his shoulder, and while the ambassador was looking at the design, his gaze had glazed over. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? The man chuckled. I am but a lowly ambassador, not an engineer. Okay, I've had enough. You all do that. Turn what I do into something, I don't know, more than what it is. I'm just an engineer. You are hardly only that. But among my people, the engineer is not a descriptive. It is a title and rank. The engineer is the creator of our advancements, the one who had the vision of how something is made better. So everyone in a position of advancing things in your society is called engineers? Jeremy was awed at the respect and power Kelsirian seemed to give those people. The title varies between classes of work, as with a doctor who will work toward advancing how we treat the body and mind. Every division has someone like that leading it. And technicians just carry out that person's vision? Yes. Jimmy whistled. A quarter of the stuff on my reactors was an idea one of my tech had. They're always sending me designs for one thing or another, and if I think it's going to improve things, I can find ways to integrate it, I will. No Kelsirian technician would think of overstepping their bound in such a way. Okay. At least that explains why Turek wouldn't step into the engineer's office and the looks I've been getting from the other tech. I thought they felt Turek was trying to weasel himself up in rank, but from what you just said, I'm the one who they feel is in the wrong in working so closely with him. Should I start alternating who I work with? No. While who we are is ingrained, they understand that the interaction between you and technician Turek is different. If for the only fact he knows your language. But tell me, is this workstation the only place you enjoy? Is there nowhere else on the station? Well, there's my lab, but that's kind of this. That's kind of just... That's kind of just a larger version of this. And I need to clear it with Dr. Manuel and probably the commander too, if I wanted to show it to you. Do you only enjoy work? No, well, it's been pointed out by my friends I'm something of a workaholic. Then a challenge, as you enjoy them. Take me to a place you like that isn't related to the work you do. I don't know if I can. Turek is expecting me. I took yesterday off, so... I will let the captain know I am taking your time. I am an ambassador. I can do such thing. He will tell the Turuk that he has more time with his family. Okay, then we'll just go. Jeremy was surprised at how difficult it was to come up with a place he truly enjoyed going. Let me grab a shower and we'll head out. He hoped he'd come up with something during that time. And you enjoy eating? Kirk asked, looking over the dining hall. The Kelsirian had insisted Jeremy called him by his name. It was as if he could tell he thought of him as the ambassador before anything else. It had felt strange, since they seemed to make a point of referring to everyone by their title and ranks, but he felt that as one more thing that made Kelsirians different from humans. Don't you? Jeremy felt his ears burn as he just implied Corey ate more than he should. I do, but not to the point I'd find a common eatery a place of note. A specialty cookery, on the other hand, he smiled and licked his lips. It's more the company than eating. Jeremy had realized that was the common denominator with the places he enjoyed more. Wait, I'd realized that. Okay, that. The common denominator to the places he enjoyed was the people he was with rather than what happened there. I don't need this specifically. Me and my friends make sure to eat together a few times a week. Quark stepped out and didn't seem bothered by the looks the people gave him. It had been the same as soon as they'd left Jeremy's room. He nodded and waved greetings, but didn't act my. Like he was gawked at. Jeremy was sure that if the parents had led them, Quark would have let the kids touch him. Where to next? I guess the next one from here would be the theater. We're going to have to go down a level for that. As they reached the lift, they were stopped by a large group of children, 10-year-olds, and they pointed at Quirk, and questions of what he was were mixed with yells of "Kitty!" and demands to touch him. There's going to be a comma right here. And Jeremy was proved right when one just reached out and took the ambassador's hand. Quirk crouched and let her turn it over and run her fingers through the fur on his wrist until the teacher pulled her away. I am so sorry, the man said. No one told us there'd be a non-human on the station. I'd have known not to. It is quite fine, Quirk said, standing. Kelsirians are your neighbor, after all, so it is only good that little ones get to know us, don't you think? The teacher looked at Jeremy as if he could tell him how to act, but he was just amused by the reaction. My name is Quirk, he told the class, who fell silent and attentive. I am told that my species does resemble a non-sentient quadruped from your planet, but I am not a kitty. Please remember that it can be insulting to be linked, to be referred to. To be referred to as an animal, and that Kelsirians are not the only species within the Federation who have a resemblance to animals from your planet. In fact, every species can find resemblance between other species and some animal on their planet. How would you feel if I called you a Shathiran? Corrick had carefully pronounced the word as if he'd been converting it from how he'd said it in his language to an English way. A child raised a hand and asked, What is a... She mangled the word badly enough. Jeremy winced in sympathy. Corrick didn't seem bothered. A Shathiran is a bothersome creature that is always climbing places. But I'm not a... Understating dawned on her face. I'm sorry I called you a kitty. You are forgiven. Now, I believe your teacher was hurting you somewhere, and I should let him take control again. He smiled at the still confused man. You have my thanks for this opportunity. I hope the rest of your day is just as instructive. Jeremy followed Queric around the group and through the crowd his presentation had created. No one stepped into the lift with them. More people stared when they exited, but without the group of children to force contact, they kept their distance. This reminds me of our leisure alley. Our leisure alleys, Queric said. Places of recreation, he added, motioning to the game mezzanine, cafe, and lounges, although they are smaller and we have them spread throughout our ships, usually connecting living areas to thoroughfares. We have them every few decks on the station. The theater's over there. Don't worry, I'll pay for you. You have to pay to enjoy leisure? Not all of it, but to enter the theater, yeah. People stared at Jeremy as Jeremy swiped his pad to pay their admission. Then, within the lobby, the ushers didn't seem to know what to do with Queric. Some looked about to protest his presence, others ready to offer him whatever he asked for. Jeremy considered it a comedy worthy of a movie, especially because this time it was humans who didn't seem to have any idea what they were doing. Craig seemed amused, but didn't take advantage of it, and Jeremy guided him to a theater that was playing out the movie he'd watched with his friends. As they passed the first door, laughter exploded from within loudly enough. Loud enough. He looked to make sure they were closed, and the sound became louder as the ambassador opened it and entered. It took him a few seconds to realize what had happened. Then glanced at the sign stating which movie was playing in that room, and he rushed in to drag Queric out before he saw anything too horrible. Unfortunately, he reached the Kelsirians watching the screen just as another round of this is another round of uh, I the ambassador. Unfortunately, he reached the ambassador watching the screen just as another round of Kelsirian on it, checking for the other's gender by this will need work. I don't know how to fix it yet. Kelsirian on it, checking for the other's gender by looking in their pants began. There were 3 of those, one after the other, as if one wasn't enough. Queric looked from the screen to the laughing audience. He resisted when Jeremy urged him to the exit, then yielded. I am so sorry you had to see that, he hurried to say. What was the humor? The Kelsirian asked. It's not important, it's just your reaction is not that of someone who thinks that it isn't important. Jeremy tried to find a way out, but Queric's gaze was serious. He sighed. It's in how dumb the Kelsirian act. Plural. Not even being able to tell that what gender the others are. Playing on the fact that unless a female is with child, our fur renders us neutral in appearance compared to human male and female. There is a visual difference, Jeremy said, ears burning, but loose enough pants will make that muddy too. And I expect that looking at another's crotch in public isn't considered polite among your species either? Not at all, he replied with a nervous chuckle. Happy Queric hadn't taken offense. And you enjoy such movies? No! Jeremy's exclamation had people staring, and he couldn't make the box form. He pulled the bottle, but Queric took his hand. It's all right, Jeremy. You are allowed to make fun of other species. I understand you feel bad, but that is entertainment, not how you feel we are. It used to be, Jeremy admitted, calming. There was something about Queric's touch that made the situation seem not as bad. After all, He wasn't running away now that he knew this about him. It's probably is for most of them. I barely remember being told about the first encounter with your species at school when I was a kid. It is still fine. Every species makes fun of the others in one way or another. It is not always done with the intent to make others laugh. If you feel that what you used to think isn't how you want to think, then that is all there is to it. You do not have to feel shame over what used to be. That's easier said than done. What I taught you works for this as well. I know, but this came on too fast. I couldn't think. And as you can see, you still didn't need your medication. But you won't always be there to talk me through it. But there will usually be someone. Jeremy nodded, and when Craig let go of his hand, he put the pills away. Now, the ambassador said, I could use something to eat after this excitement. How about you? Jeremy chuckled at what felt like a somewhat forced change of subject. I guess I could. He hadn't had a large breakfast. And I guess we can go back to the hall and deck up. Craig smiled. Now that you have shown me places you enjoy, how about I show you one of mine? Sure? The hesitation made his answer a question, unsure where on the station a Kelsirian might enjoy eating. And that concludes chapter 23 of The Captain's Heart. If you are enjoying that, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe, hit the bell. If you want to read the story, you can find it on a Ream Story. And if you are looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.